This episode is brought to you by the Neon Nail Company. Welcome into the 7th episode of the Market Like a Millennial podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Itnyre. And today, folks, we were hit with a massive snowstorm here in Memphis. Got about 13 inches, which might not sound like much to you guys up in the northern regions of the country. But here in Memphis, that means that we raid the grocery store and we don't leave our houses for 7 days until the ice melts, because we're not even going to put salt down. We're just going to accept that we can do absolutely nothing when snow hits the area. And that's the way it's been, and that's the way it always most likely will be here in Memphis, Tennessee. So I am super excited to get out of the house. First day out of the house in 7 days, we decided to go on over to Alliance MMA, which is located in the Cooper Young area here in Memphis, Tennessee. And we got a grappling session in with Milo and the boys. And it was super special because I was able to take my little guy, Cruz, who was off of school today because it was a snow day. And he got to see his father wrestle and grapple for the first time, which was super important to me because I hope to get him into it at some point. And I wanted him to see what his father could do, you know? And all the credit goes to Milo because I don't think I would be back on the mat without him. He is a fellow contractor, listens to the podcast, and he reached out to me after hearing that I wrestled in one of the podcasts and said, "Hey man, I want to get you back on the mat and see what you can do, get you back into it." And so I accepted the challenge, as I always do. I never say no. I decided to show up, right? Pulled up into the parking lot and I look over and I said, "Man, these guys are bigger than what I expected." Parked and got out and we all were standing there. These guys are in good shape. Some of them are in better shape than I'm in. And a little bit of anxiety and self-doubt started to creep in. And so it all turned out to be nothing. We got in there, started drilling, going through the practice, got back into the rhythm of things, performed exceptionally well. And it was all built up in my head, but I think we all have that inner self-doubt in the back of our head sometimes that can get us into trouble no matter what we decide to do. And so that's what I want to talk about today, because I think a lot of younger salesmen struggle with this. I've seen people come in and out of this industry, and I remember having self-doubt when I first came in. It's like this whole little thing, this little game that you play with yourself, where you'll go out and you'll have a good month and you'll say, "Wow, I did $80,000 this month," or whatever number you put up, and say, "Well, am I going to be able to do that next month?" And what you find out, if you go out and persevere and you market like you're supposed to and put the time and the effort in, you can do it the next month. But it still doesn't deter that inner voice that you have in your head from persistently saying that you can't do it. And really around 2018, 2019, that's when I really started accepting that this was going to be a thing for me and that roofing was a part of my life and that I could do it. And I really can't recall the moment where that self-doubt left, but it had to be around the time that I stepped into the role of being an expert and being able to sell with conviction through having ultimate product knowledge. And the reason why I wanted to put this podcast together is because I had a few people reach out last week that are green in the industry. They just started listening to the podcast, just started following me on social media. They're within the first few months of their journey of being a roofing salesman. And they just said, "Hey, where do I get my bearings of understanding this whole entire process?" Spinning their tires, trying to figure out where to start, where to get better at, because right now they're not closing all that many deals. And I think one of the most important things to do is realize where you're starting at, which is, for most people, no product knowledge, no understanding of how a roof is replaced from start to finish. And that being said, one of the things I would recommend, if your organization that you are working for will allow it, is to start in the field with a project manager or a field supervisor where you can follow him around and learn how a roof is replaced from start to finish. For me, if I'm starting in the roofing industry today and I have to go in and start selling, I think that's a recipe for disaster for most people. And the reason why is that when you have no product knowledge, when you have no understanding of why a roof needs to be replaced, understanding how a roof is replaced, it can lead to a lot of confusion and a lot of deals that you leave on the table because you don't fully understand the process. So taking a step back, I started in an ideal situation because my father made me be the field project manager for about a year and a half. So I had 3 to 6 crews for a year and a half that I supervised each and every day, working from 5 a.m. to sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night, making sure the jobs get done. Everything was being taken care of the way that it was supposed to be. And even though it was a tough time for me, it allowed me to cut my teeth on learning product knowledge, learning how a roof needs to be replaced properly, and why roofs fail in the first place. And that gave me a solid foundation to move into my career as a roofing salesman. And even though I was wondering why my father decided to put me there, and it was by far the most challenging time of my career. We worked weekends all the time. Imagine being at a job in August at 9, 10 o'clock at night, just sweating, wondering why you're sweating and why you're still at the job. And a lot of the times, just to keep morale up, I would be out there doing the wheelbarrows of trash, just kind of help getting the process and keeping morale up with the guys, trying to get the job done so that way we could start another one the next day. But that foundation was amazing to be able to go in and explain to Miss Jones on why her roof needed to be replaced rather than repaired. You learn what drip edge is. You learn why chimney flashing needs to be replaced. You learn that when you're using copper counter flashing, you can't use aluminum step flashing because it creates a chemical bond that eats at each other. And Miss Jones, that's the reason why your roof is leaking. And we're going to fix that because the builder didn't do it correctly. And so having that foundation and that knowledge is the key to starting off and being successful in the roofing industry. That experience coupled with the stars aligning a little bit too, because my first week of sales, we actually had a Rodney Webb event in St. Louis that we went to, and that guy just completely opened everything up for me. What people say about Rodney Webb, you hear it from Dimitri all the time that he was a huge mentor and that he couldn't get enough information from the guy. It's true. The guy has a great way of being able to translate knowledge to the homeowner through setting yourself up as the expert. And so absorbing the information that we got from Rodney, we came back and we immediately started training and starting to build ourselves up as experts inside of the home. And so that was a key part of my success early on in my career. Insurance didn't play a role in my success at all when I first started because we had an inspector that I didn't get along with very well. So I tried to avoid that guy at all costs. And so it made me rely on selling roofs. And my first appointment that I ever ended up going out to, we ended up closing that deal on the spot, and I was off and running to the races. And I attribute two things: being able to set myself up as an expert inside of the home and my product knowledge and understanding of a roofing system. Those are the two things that made people do business with me continuously throughout my career. And I think anyone that's in this industry, of course, you might want to be focused on getting leads at the door and having an insurance base, right? Everyone wants insurance jobs, but it can't be something that you're relying on, because at some point in time in your career, there's going to be a drought. And when you have that drought occur, if you're a local contractor, you're going to bleed a little bit. And if you're able to sell retail in that scenario, you're going to be able to get by. Whereas the people who are not able to sell retail, they're going to fold up and go out of business, or they're going to go somewhere else. That's just the reality of it. So for me, there's two sides of roofing sales. You have the insurance side, which I believe is easy, and then you have the retail side, which is a little bit harder. Insurance is a repeatable process that if you perfect, you could do over and over and over again. I can't remember the last time that I walked into a house on an insurance deal and didn't walk out with a contingency, right? That makes things a lot easier. You get an initial commitment. Retail, you never get that commitment, right? You're going in and you got a $20,000 roof that you got to sell. You got to be able to explain to that homeowner on why they need to invest that money in you as a roofing contractor over someone else. That's a little bit tougher. However, if you put the same amount of reps into retail sales as you do insurance sales, it becomes a lot easier. What you see is that the sales training at most companies revolve around door-to-door interaction in signing up insurance jobs, which is not the ideal scenario for you to grow as a salesperson, because I get it all the time in my DMs. Well, I'm getting people to sign up for the initial contingency, but once that the roof is approved, they want to go with someone else because you have no credibility. You haven't set yourself up as an expert, so therefore they don't want to do business with you. So the foundation of being in retail sales, for me personally, after I get the roof approved, that's when I really get to start selling. I still go into the house, do a full demo, go through the process. We're not just picking out shingle color. We're making this a full experience, right? And that comes from retail sales, that foundation in retail sales. That's the only way I know how to sell. And so what you find with insurance people is that, call them insurance people, you guys are the same as me. I'm not saying that you're not. But what I'm saying is that being misled into only focusing on insurance leaves a huge gap in your game as a roofing salesperson. So I think it's vital to seek improvement in both. For me, on the insurance side of things, I'm still learning stuff all the time. I think when you're dealing with adjusters that are creative in denying roofs, it's important to learn law and code and why a roof needs to be replaced rather than repaired. So I'm constantly learning new arguments that gives me an edge to ultimately get a roof replaced. When it comes to the retail side of things, it's much more refined. I do a great job on that side. However, there's moments where I don't close and I have to be able to analyze and come back and work with someone here at the office and make sure that I'm as tight as possible when I go inside of the home. And so sales in reality is only one part of the game. I don't think it's even a huge part of the game. I really think where you're going to set up your referral machine and people going out and talking about you and getting you more business is on the customer service side of things. And you have to be able to find your own way. Customer service is the secret sauce of every roofing company. It's different, you know? When you go to McDonald's, Big Mac sauce is different than if you go somewhere else and they have their own specialty sauce. It might be Thousand Island dress over here, but Big Mac sauce is always Big Mac sauce. And so that's what you have to realize, is that you have to develop your own style of customer service that connects with homeowners and that makes them want to go out and talk about your roofing business. And that's what I think we've done very well here at Masters Roofing. And there's things that I've done personally that has been a huge part of being innovative and being able to provide that experience. Customer service just doesn't fall on the roofing company. As a roofing salesman, I think that there's a cadence in the industry with some people, I don't know where they get it from, but that they're just there to sell the roofs, right? They're not there to provide customer service. I don't think anyone should be a field guy and a roofing salesman. I think those should be two separate divisions. But I do think that the roofing salesman should have their own customer service that they have to provide. Like me, I'll give you a few things that I do. I'm not giving everything away because that's my secret sauce, right? But I'm at every job majority of the time, unless if I have an adjuster appointment or something like that early on in the morning, I'm there when it starts. That's something that I developed when I was younger as a project manager. And so when I go, old habits just die hard. And so when I wake up, I just want to go out to that job, make sure that the tear off goes perfectly, and knock on the door around 8:30, 9 a.m. to see if the homeowner's home. If they're not home, then I give them an update and let them know what's going on. And there's just certain things that you can do that will ultimately set your business apart from every other contracting experience that homeowner has had. And if you can make that impression on them, they're ultimately going to refer you out to a friend. And just today, I got 4 phone calls to my phone where it came from, all of them were from referrals, people that had great experiences. And with the ice dams that are occurring across Memphis, their folks had leaks, and they decided to give me a call and say, hey, you're my guy. You did a great job with our roof. I'm going to send you my father's information, or my sister or brother, whatever. So that's what you guys got to realize, is that sales is only one part of the machine. The other part is being able to provide ultimate customer service that ultimately leaves an impact to where they want to go out and talk about your business. And that is going to be what I wrap this up on before I start talking too much to end this podcast. Maybe if this podcast gets enough likes, let's say over 50, something crazy, we'll do a follow-up episode on this and talk a little bit more about the customer service sides of things that you can improve on to ultimately make your company different and make yourself stand out as a roofing salesman. But more importantly, work on developing yourself completely. Work on all sides of your game. The better you are as a sales representative in the service that you're providing, the more jobs you're going to close. And that's as simple as it gets. And I appreciate your guys' support. We're growing consistently on this podcast. Last podcast got jacked up because Dropbox didn't want to transfer all the different videos that we made, but I'm thinking about redoing that one over at some point, and that way that's complete, because there was a lot of good information that got left out, got deleted, and turned into a rant rather than a podcast. But if you guys enjoy this podcast, make sure that you like, subscribe, let me know your feedback in the comments below, and thank you guys so much for tuning in. See you on the next one.